Hello and a warm welcome to our webinar of today with the title The Evolution of Integrated SASE for the AI Age. My name is Petra Schütz from Divya and I will be your technical support for this session. Before I hand over to the speakers, a few small technical notes from my side. The webinar will be recorded, but don't worry, this doesn't apply to you. It's just a recording of the presenter's presentation and the audio feeds, which will be made available to you after the webinar. In case you have any questions during the webinar, you can submit them at your tool. If you look at your control panel, you will see that you can enter the questions there. Please use this opportunity at any time during the webinar. We will gather the questions and for the Q&A session and answer as many as we can there. If we don't get to answer all of them, we'll come back to you after the webinar. And now I look forward to an informative webinar and hand over to you, Mark.
Okay, good afternoon, everybody. My name's Mark Taylor. I'm a customer security manager employed by T-Systems. I've been in the security industry for about 30 years, and so I'm going to be talking to you today about the evolution of SASE of the AI age, and I'll pass over to my co-host, Steve.
Thank you, Mark. I'm Steve McCarthy. I'm a SASE Partner Development Manager at Palo Alto Networks. I've been in the IT and telecoms industry for over 30 years, 7 years in security, 5 of those with Palo Alto Networks.
Okay, so the premise of this webinar is that with the advent of AI, it's been used in significantly more cyber attacks and AI and activities across our business space. So with greater speed and complexity than ever before. As a result, we kind of come up with a hypothesis that with our current crop of security tools that are being used to fulfill our SASE solutions would potentially be unable to provide our security assurances that they were designed to protect if they're not fully integrated. This presentation will sort of look at the current crop of security tools, how SASE works today, and as we go through it, we'll look at how AI has been involved in the cyber threats and how AI could be used in sort of providing more security focus and protections as we move forward. Okay. Okay, so first question really, secure access, secure edge. What is it and where did it come from? Okay, in 2019, Gartner produced a report that effectively had indicated that the SSE that we were traditionally using really needed an extra string to its bow. So they came up with a definition of secure access, secure edge, which combined the elements of SSE with SD-WAN. So effectively what you had SD-WAN combined with network security functions such as cloud access security brokers, secure web gateways, firewall as a service, and zero trust network access, and that was defined as SASE. Now the idea is that SASE provides for a secure end-to-end networking layer to ensure that organizational data is protected from a wide and extensive variety of threats. The primary components of the SASE, as defined by Gartner, as I've said, are SD-WAN, the CASB, secure web gateway, zero trust network access, and firewall as a service.
So, Mark, how come some of those components are shown in bold and the others are not?
Okay. The reason they're in bold and some are in bold is that when Gartner were coming up with their definition of what SASE is, they've actually said that the SD-WAN, SWG, and ZTNA, Cloud Security Access Program, and Firewall Service will be the key components. That's what SASE is. However, what they've also said is that, well, in addition to which, to build upon that security layer, WAN optimization, routing, SAS acceleration, browser isolation, DLP, anti-malware, and a wide variety of other tools can be used as supplementary elements to provide SASE, to provide us with that additional secure access, secure edge, so we ensure that consistent user experience, but also provide us with the greatest degree of security in our networking layer. The idea behind it was really to ensure that the data we have as organizations is safe within our organizations. Okay, so let's quickly talk about some of the tools involved. So SD-WAN provides secure communications infrastructure. It uses IP-based bearers and software-enforced security mechanisms. For those some of you slightly older will remember MPLS. SD-WAN is effectively a much more cost-effective, much more scalable version of MPLS, and is definitely taken over around the world. To be honest, SD-WAN is definitely the security mechanism for secure communications that is used throughout the world. Right, the cloud access security brokers. Now, as we organizationally use more and more cloud tools, whether that's Dropbox, whether that's Microsoft products, whether it's Google products, the cloud access security brokers is an on-premise or cloud access based security policy enforcement tool. It's paced between cloud service customers, that's the idea, consumers, and the cloud service providers to combine to inject enterprise security policies. That way you don't have information leaving your organization that you don't approve. Or more importantly, you don't use tools, or your employees don't use tools that aren't approved to store your or manage your data. It just adds to that additional security package you have. The key part of the cloud access security brokers is that it means that you can do some really good things with regarding authentication, single sign-on, credential mapping, and device profiling. Also, you can ensure that the encryption is happening. It really limits. You can use it to limit what people have access to, and more importantly, you can ensure that the only things that are leaving your organization is what you define it. Okay, secure web gateway. Okay, so let's talk about it's an on-premise cloud delivered network security technology which filters internet traffic and enforces corporate and regulatory compliance. Obviously, with the World Wide Web, as we know, it's a bit of a wild west out there still, and the secure web gateway ensures that our employees can only access the things that we're happy that they're accessing. To ensure also not only we protect our corporate data, we're protecting our employees as well from a potentially malicious attack, potentially collecting information from them by effectively deferring and deterring the use of websites that perhaps aren't as favourable to our corporate set of standards. Zero Trust Networking is a set of technologies designed to securely manage remote access to applications. Okay, as we develop technologies, we all use VPNs in one way or another. Now, the VPN will give you access to the network resources, but it doesn't control where that access is. It doesn't provide us with that degree of security that, you know what, I can log in from home, I can log in anywhere I like, but where can I go? What the VPN does is it says, yep, you can access our main perimeter. With Zero Trust Networking, you access that main perimeter, and then you are defined based on the permissions that you've been given where you can go, where the employee can direct their activities, the access of tools they can have access to. So effectively, they can only gain access to the tools and services they're explicitly authorized to access. And firewall as a service. Okay, firewall as a service has been around for a long time now. It's cloud-based, and it allows companies to simplify their IT infrastructure. It's very, very scalable. It uses next generation firewall technologies. So effectively, IPS, DNS, web filtering, advanced threat protections are all incorporated into firewall as a service. It's very much like an old-fashioned, not old-fashioned in a lot of cases, a hardware firewall. However, it comes with the advantage being it's flexible and scalable. Firewall as a service can easily be adapted according to the organizations and the size of your organization, your configurations, and the demands that that your organization has. Okay, so let's just quickly talk about networking and why SASE. Okay, so networks have fundamentally changed. I won't say the old days, but prior to 2019, 2018, we still had the headquarters, we had a couple of subsidiaries, and we were using cloud-based applications, absolutely. But at the end of the day, the environment was quite well protected. It was very, very rigidly, it was a centralized topology and single points of protection against external threats. effectively everybody works in the office, or everyone works in a limited number of offices. 2018, 2019, and then COVID. Now, I use COVID as an example, really, because we all know that, that trigger time. 2020 was when the world really changed in the way IT and everything else started to move forward. And suddenly, as SASE, which prior to 2019 had been, it was gaining momentum. From 2020 onwards, it became really the only way to provide security around our infrastructure. You have remote workers now logging in from all around the world. Often people are working remotely, working from home, working on hybrid working. The sheer volume of cloud applications increased, and people are demanding more and more security from their communications. They want, organizationally, we want to ensure that we're protecting our business secrets. We have companies are everywhere. You have people operating now in, whether they're in the office, whether they're working from home. Those tools, the access that we have now and the way we use networks is completely different. So that's why SASE was brought into the picture, and that's how it's being used today. With the access and the availability of SASE products, we're able to create an environment where our data, our information is solidly and strongly protected. Okay, so I've talked a bit about SASE, and I've talked about how networking works and why we use SASE today. And effectively, it's about protecting information. So now let's move on let's look at AI and how the impact that's happened.
Okay, thanks, Mark. So whether we like it or not, AI is here. And not only is it here to stay, but it will become as mainstream as the internet is today. So AI has the potential to hugely enrich our digital lives and boost both our personal and professional productivity. So we've got a choice as individuals and as technology leaders and practitioners. We can choose to ignore AI, or we can choose to embrace AI. But living in denial of AI isn't really an option. So the Gartner AI Hype Cycle report from 2023 makes for some interesting reading. So what this does is it maps the expectations of AI over time. So one interesting prediction from Gartner is that general intelligence will not be a reality for the next 10 years. But to my earlier point, it will come, whether it's 5 years or 10 years or 15 years, however accurate the prediction is, but general intelligence will come. So on the right-hand side of that slide, you can see an extract from another piece of Gartner research, this time on AI investment plans. The conclusion being is that the majority of CIOs anticipate increased spending on AI, and on top of that list is spending on AI cybersecurity, which is pleasing to see, not just because I work for the largest cyber security company globally, but because technology leaders recognize that AI comes with risks as well as benefits. And that's something that we'll explore through the rest of this session. But as of today, 55% of employees admit to using unapproved Gen AI tools in the work environment. And that was from a survey carried out by Salesforce. And in another piece of research undertaken by Accenture, 95% of organizations are already using Gen AI tools, with 23% not monitoring any usage at all.
So Steve, you mentioned obviously that a lot of CIOs are investing into generative AI and everything that goes with that. What sort of financial investment are we looking at?
Okay, so again, this is from another piece of this is Gartner research. There's a report that they put out on the forecast analysis of AI software. So this is the value of AI software that will be spent invested by 2027. So they're projecting $300 billion will be spent on things like AI productivity tools, co-pilots by 2027. So $300 billion, I mean, that is probably greater than the GDP of many countries. So it's significant. So we kind of established that AI is rapidly scaling out. But what does that mean for potential cyber threats? So here are a couple of things that we anticipate to see happening. And in fact, we're starting to see that now. Many of you will be familiar with the SolarWinds supply chain attack. So of 18,000 Trojanized Orion software downloads, 55% were confirmed to have been infected. Now that's likely because of the manual effort needed to conduct that full-scale attack. Palo Alto Networks threat research agency, Unit 42, recently did some analysis on that, on the SolarWinds attack, and looked at it from the point of view of what would it look like if AI had been present at the time and used at the time of the SolarWinds attack. So their conclusion, having done that research, was as opposed to 55% being infected, it would be closer to 100%. So you get a sense of the likely impact. If you look at the speed of attacks as well, so taking a really extremely fast ransomware attack, that's probably one to 2 days from initial compromise to exfiltration of data or a position of a ransomware attack. So using AI, again, with some research that we've undertaken, that attack from compromise to exfiltration could be completed in under 4 hours. And then finally, the level of sophistication using AI for cyber attacks. We now have the potential, the realistic potential, that every attack could be a zero-day attack. Now, if you don't know what a zero-day attack is, that is a piece of malware or malicious code that has never been seen before. So for malicious activists, AI brings the potential that every attack could be a zero-day attack. Mark, can you expand perhaps on some of the attack vectors resulting from AI?
Okay, so as some of the AI is developing, and AI is we're seeing it more and more in the cybersecurity space. So why is AI and why is it being used, and how is it being used against us as employers, as organizations? Well, AI really starts off very simply as we'll start off with how the evolution of an attack, really, an evolution of a cyber attack. So as we know today, our potential intruders, they'll try to identify weaknesses in our organizations. Now, using AI, this process can be sped up significantly. AI algorithms can rapidly analyze systems to detect security weaknesses. This also includes things like scanning for unpatched software, misconfigurations, and other areas of exploitation. Whether that's whether it's just the basics of, effectively we've not maintained our software properly, to the timelines and the predictions of predicting patterns of individuals logging into the system, how communications can work within organizations, because the thing with AI is it is a learning algorithm and it looks for patterns. It's designed to look for patterns and establish a response based on those patterns. So effectively, an organization could be susceptible to an AI attack if everybody logs in at 8 o'clock in the morning, and then effectively our internal defenses may not recognize that something is unusual because everyone's attacking at the same time. Everyone's logging on at the same time. That peaking activity we'll see as an intruder potentially tries to come into our systems, and because AI is a relentless attacker, it's got the patience to wait. AIs can exploit weaknesses, exploit identified vulnerabilities with precision leading to rapid attacks. As Steve's mentioned, some of these compromise to exploitations are less than 4 hours. That's extremely quick. In the past, those timelines were significantly longer because it took an individual to actually sit there and do the work. Now we can run AI against a wide variety of sort of targets, and AI can be really used to focus down on those attack options. Obviously, AI, as we've said, is a learning algorithm. So the automation of attacks becomes a real problem. If the algorithm has been taught, which is the key factor of, funny old thing, AI, as we've taught it how to conduct those attacks, all the different variations it might need, all the changes it might need, all the adaptations to the way a response is happening on the network or by an individual. It can adapt that and create an attack targeted specifically at its target. The reason behind that is effectively what you have is dedicated, focused intruders potentially attacking your systems, where in the past you might have had a collective of individuals trying to attack multiple environments at the same time. Now you can set it off. A cloud-based AI attack could be coming from anywhere and can be relentless against our networking capabilities. There's been some suggestions that AI can create malware, and that's absolutely likely. We haven't seen specific examples of it yet because malware evolves very, very quickly. But what we can, there's nothing to say that the existing malware can't be adapted, can't be folded in to what an AI already knows, and can be used to basically launch another type of attack against their environments. We've all seen phishing attacks improve since the advent of AI. Since the advent of ChatGPT-4 a couple of years ago, we've seen the uplift in phishing attacks significantly from what were very, very poorly done, poorly constructed, and often very, very noticeable attacks to very, very capable, effectively very, very believable attacks now. The little mistakes that were there in the past just are not there. And AI is being used to craft those emails, and we craft them with weight as well. So not only are they being used as a single one-shot attack, they can be used to create a responsive communication. So for example, an AI conducts an attack against an environment or sends a phishing email, the user responds, and then the AI responds to them, and they create a communication pathway, which enables the AI to naturally insert information or an attack vector into your environments. Interestingly, there's been reports of deep fakes, generation of deep fakes. Now, we've all heard of the media of certain media personalities having their faces added to saying things that they allegedly didn't say, etc., etc. But that's not to say it doesn't happen across business. That's not to say that our potential intruders aren't using these type of generative AI to create realistic audio and video deep fakes to suggest that they can take your voice and, if you're the CEO of an organization, transpose that voice into an AI, get the AI to say exactly what they want it to say, and then play it back to your employees. Whether that is a financial attack, whether it's reputational damage, these are the type of tools that are being used today. And we're seeing greater and greater levels of AI being used in all of these environments. So with all these along, what are we seeing? What have we seen across the whole business space? What we seeing Palo Alto? What's Palo Alto seeing?
Yes, really echoing what you said there, Mark. We're seeing a lot of that. So you talked about AI created malware. You're right in that it takes a fraction of the time to produce, obviously, compared to human or other, non-sophisticated machine created malware. That threat landscape is continuing to intensify its sophistications, scale and speed. I don't think we've really seen that taking hold yet. I mean, that's sort of green shoots at the moment. Phishing was something else that you mentioned. So what we've seen from our side is about a tenfold increase in phishing emails in the last 12 months driven by AI. The other thing that we're seeing is nation states now attempting to use AI for attacks. So, make no bones about it, this is ramping up and scaling out. So across 65,000 Palo Alto Network customers from all around the world, we've seen nearly 20 million unique zero-day attacks, and that's going back to what I said earlier on. And we did Palo Alto did a malware investigation, and that was showing a 400% increase in attempted exploits. And attacks are happening faster than organizations can respond. As you can see from the graphic, that back in 2021, the average was 44 days from initial compromise to exfiltration of data, and that how long it took the hackers to get the data out. We talked about this a couple of times so far. That time is now reduced to a matter of hours with increased automation using AI. So the industry average for remediation is 6 days. So now what you're looking at is a really, really unbalanced equation. Then you add to that the GDPR adopted rule of 3 days to notify the DPA of a data breach, and we're not really in a great place here. So if we look at how the security industry is responding to that, how our industry is responding, well, the traditional approach of the security industry when it comes to confronting issues like this has been to throw point products at each element of the problem as it arises. That means you end up with this crazy product sprawl situation with too many point products from too many vendors. The number of security products is bad enough. We're talking SASE here, and that means we now add in networking for a fully converged picture. Then it really does become very, very messy. But then there's the question, why should we care? Why should this make any difference to us at all? Well, as security practitioners, this is now a threat vector. Because of all the gaps that exist between those products, you've got separate policies, you've got separate data, separate management. Hackers and malicious activists are exploiting those gaps. This is security dark matter. All of those gaps is security dark matter because no one really knows what's going on in that gaps. You apply AI to that and it just blows those gaps wide open. So in the event of a potential security breach or compromise for an organization, right? So where do you look first? Which policy, from which data set, and from which management system? 22% of organizations having 50 or more individual security products or tools. That sounds low to me, and I'd imagine the bigger the organization, that number would be a lot higher. But I mean, it's an average. So from an operational point of view, this is really complex to manage and run. Fundamentally, complexity is the enemy of security and the friend of malicious activists. So what do we do about it? Well, one of the best ways for an organization to up their security game is to close some of those gaps and make it harder for attackers to infiltrate. Well, how do we close the gaps? Well, the more point products we can remove, the more gaps that we remove along with that. So that we're talking about consolidation. So Mark, just back to you on this one. Can you elaborate on some of the pros and cons of integrated SASE when it comes to closing out some of those gaps?
Absolutely. One of the things we talked about was the sheer volume of tools that are out there in the industry today. And as we mentioned before, the SASE itself tends to sit with sort of 5 key points. Now, over the years, and we all know this, and traditionally, we've always gone for the best of breed. A lot of us go for best of breed vendors, firewalls by whoever, ZTNA by somebody else. Now, whilst that was a fantastic idea, because we can then get the products that we absolutely needed, and effectively they provided us with the tools that we needed. However, AI has kind of turning a lot of that on its head, unfortunately. So what we've got now is those gaps and those integrations that were previously not really, we always were aware of them, but they weren't as big of an issue, are becoming a bigger issue now. So with an integrated solution, as we know, you tend to have all the products are written in a similar way, so they communicate nicely with each other. They don't need bespoke APIs. They don't need additional coding. They don't need additional ways of communicating, and often a single pane of glass. You have unified support and troubleshooting. So in the event of an incident, it all can be seen very, very simply. You've got coverage there. You can see there's a problem there. You can go to a single vendor, and that vendor can give you the response you need. You're buying in bulk. I know it's a daft thing to say. Potential cost savings for those integrated solutions. Effectively, if you buy your entire SASE platform from a single vendor, there may be benefits to that, financial benefits to that. There may be advantages that are working with a single vendor, which means you have less challenges moving forward. In addition to which, and certainly as something that Steve brought up, policy enforcement. It's very, very difficult. Those of us who work in the security industry are well aware how difficult it is to transfer policies from one organization's software to another, to ensure that they're compatible across the piece, to ensure the response is the same, to ensure that those elements of the organization that tie together are actually all consistent. And it is very, very difficult. Now, with an integrated solution, it becomes a lot easier because effectively everything works in a single way. Obviously, the downsides. There are downsides to all of these things. And key one of those is the vendor lock-in. Effectively, you can end up working with one vendor, exclusively one vendor, and because you've bought all your products from one vendor, it's very difficult to move away from them after a while. You could have limited options. Is the vendor you've chosen a market leader in its space? Are they using the latest technologies? Are they considered to be the top 5, the top 3, whatever it happens to be? And you could argue there may be some scalability concerns. Can you ramp up your environment? Is the software that you're purchasing or the software you're looking for suitable for what you need? All of these fold into a very, very simple and really, we look at it, the pros and cons of integrated solutions. Absolutely, they form part and parcel of the way we do business in the IT security space or information security space. The key thing is with AI, because of the sheer volume of AI attacks and the increase in technologies, the speed that these attacks are coming in, any small little gap, any small transition between organizations or between pieces of software, anything that can be exploited will be. And the integrated solutions may be, whilst in the past may not be something we've always a bit shied away from, the integrated solution may be something we have to genuinely embrace today. Okay, so Steve, can you tell us a bit about how AI is supporting the transformation journey in SASE?
Yeah, so this is about kind of turning attack into defense, really. So if we're going to robustly counter the threat that we are seeing and expect to see more of from AI-based attacks, then we need to use AI as part of the defense mechanism. But it's not just, if we're really going to get it right, it's not just a case of taking existing security tooling and putting large language models, LLMs, on top of it. Because if you're using AI for writing emails or summarizing meeting notes or stuff like that, then your tolerance for error may be quite high. But in the world of cybersecurity, being 90% confident in a piece of information is clearly not enough, given the consequences of not being 100%. But to get from 90% to 100%, it's not just saying, okay, we need to work 10% harder. It becomes exponential because of the environment that we're in. And as a basis for how we go about securing the AI enterprise, we need to start with getting a comprehensive inventory of AI usage. And that is sanctioned AI usage, the stuff that organizations know about, as well as the AI usage that's going on in the shadows. And an example there could be, a lot of organizations, probably most organizations, when it comes to financial reporting and looking at various numbers, are using spreadsheets. So there's a Chat GPT add-on for Excel. So if somebody in finance is busily working away at some financial information results or quarterly results, end of year results, as opposed to doing, equals sum equals chat GPT, then potentially all of that confidential information is now in the public domain. It's not within the company's walled security. So that's why we need to understand fully and completely what is being used in an organization. So once we know what is being used, once we have that in full inventory, and then to Mark's earlier point, we can start applying policy controls to protect sensitive data, then at the same time securing applications that either leverage AI or have AI embedded in them, like the Excel example. So I said previously that complexity is it's like the kryptonite to the Superman of cybersecurity. It's the enemy of security. So it's critical that going through this process, we hugely simplify, and we don't go back to what we talked about at the start and introduce more complexity with technology that's supposed to make things easier. So it's incumbent on us to ensure that we don't bring in more complexity. We can't afford to replicate the mistakes of the past, given how more severe the stakes are at the moment. So I'd like to share with you Palo Alto Networks' approach on securing that AI transformation with the recently announced launch of Precision AI. Now, some of you may have seen some of the publicity around Precision AI, notably the Keanu Reeves video. Keep your eyes open, because I think there may be more of those videos to come. So Precision AI is Palo Alto Networks' response to counter that threat posed by AI. There are three pillars to Precision AI: machine learning, deep learning, and generative AI. So machine learning, which is already built into many of our products for a long time. So the machine learning allows the security applications to become more accurate at preventing and remediating security problems. So this is using whether it's historical data or current data as inputs into those ML algorithms. Then deep learning. So we build on top of the machine learning with deep learning. So the key with deep learning is it helps us to build predictive models to anticipate and detect security issues in real time by learning from what we have, as, if you like, the output to the machine learning. So the ultimate goal from a security point of view using AI is to prevent an attack before it's even been raised, using that intelligence with all of the patterns that we can see and that we can detect to almost put the vaccination out before the virus has started. That's the goal here. Then we look at generative AI, and that's back to the simplification part, to use the tools to speak human, to simplify the user experience, the user interface, by summarizing large volumes of threat intelligence. And we'll do that, and we're doing that through a number of co-pilots which will be built into the Palo Alto environment, and really to reduce and almost, again, the nirvana, getting to zero of a mean time to respond. So there's a great way that you can remember this, and it's a DRAPE. It's an acronym, I'm afraid, but DRAPE, because we drape AI across our security products. So machine learning, that's about detecting and remediating. Deep learning is about anticipating and preventing. And then E, the education piece, that's twofold. That's about taking the output and re-educating the model itself on what we've discovered, but also at the same time educating the users who are looking at this through our co-pilots as to what's happened, what actions have been taken, and what course correction has been put in place. So Precision AI does represent, it's a huge investment from Palo Alto Networks, because AI, we are at a security inflection point. And the traditional cyber tools and technologies have to evolve. Business as usual is most definitely not enough. So AI, it lowers the barriers of entry for novice new cyber criminals, hackers for hire, and hacktivists to carry out effective access to gathering information, gathering operational information, and conducting attacks. The broader attack will without a doubt contribute to the global ransomware threat. And in addition, we'll see a huge increase in social engineering, deep fakes that Mark talked about earlier on, phishing that we talked about, and new attacks for things like the software, the supply chain, like I mentioned with SolarWinds, but we will see that on a completely different scale. And with that, I'll hand you back to Mark just to sum up before we go to questions.
Okay, thank you very much. So effectively, in summary, what we would like to say is that whilst the tools we have to deploy today do provide us with a great degree of security across our environments. If you're using SASE tools today, these are the tools that you'll be using, and these are providing you with that degree of trust of your environments. Absolutely. However, the advent of AI has to make you, as organizational leaders, look at your organizations and say, okay, are we still as secure? Are the tools we've got fit for purpose? Are they suitable? And more importantly, are we potentially a target of an advanced type of attack? Now, whether or not you believe that the AI is going to become a greater threat to security, whether or not you've seen it, all of those things aside, with the development of AI tools and with the use of the learning algorithms, our cyber attackers are becoming much, much faster in their attacks. On the contrary side, organizations such as Palo Alto are investing a significant amount of money and resources into using their 20 years of experience in this field to build up the learning algorithms, to build up the tool sets, to understand all the elements that are regarding a cyber attack, to hopefully put those protections in place so effectively they can proactively defend. So, our viewpoint is still that as we're seeing transition of technologies moving forward, as the advent of AI is coming in, the integrated solution may be the better choice moving forward. Okay, thank you very much for listening. Does anybody have any questions? Feel free to ask them now.
So we do have a few questions coming in. I will just pull out the first one. Are new entrants into the AI security market better placed than established security players like Palo Alto Networks?
Okay, that's an interesting question. So the norm in the technology industry is often that the new entrants into that space are often the disruptors or the trendsetters. They don't have, people talk about having legacy and baggage. I think with AI cybersecurity, the reverse will be true, because the AI is only as good as the data that it has to feed off. So the more comprehensive and richer that data set, then the more accurate the AI generated output. So looking at it from a Palo Alto perspective, as opposed to legacy and baggage, I like to think of it as heritage, experience, and data, because Palo Alto's been collecting data since day one, since 2005, from those first next generation firewalls. We still have all of that data. We haven't got rid of it, and it's a hugely diverse data set, from endpoints, from networks, from firewalls, from the cloud. And that's a huge differentiator for Palo Alto, and I think a big advantage over the more recent entrants into the security industry. So I think, legacy and heritage will stand Palo Alto in a really, really good step here.
All right, thanks for answering the first question. I will pick the next one. What if we have a SASE toolset already? Are we more vulnerable than before?
As I sort of intimated at the sort of conclusion, summary of my presentation, I'm saying that whilst we may not be more vulnerable, I think perhaps the risk might increase. Effectively, the tool set you've got today is the one that you're working with today, and there's no guarantees, there's no requirement to jump immediately into the latest, greatest version of something. However, I would say that what organizations need to consider is that, okay, you have a SASE tool set. What is it being supported by? What integrations does it have? What use cases are you seeing for it? Are the security policies as joined up as you would like them? And do they work effectively? And if that's the case, you can actually look at your environment and say, okay, maybe we do want to tweak things around. Now, I wouldn't say you're more vulnerable today, but perhaps the risk is increased. And as the time moves forward, as AI becomes a greater threat, as effectively the bad actors start collecting more and more data, we may see that your existing toolset may become more challenged by those intruders. The key part to remember here is that if you've got the tools already, that's fantastic. That's a great place to be. But just be aware is that security. I'm going to throw in a very cliched security argument. Security is a journey. It really is a journey. And it is something that's constantly evolving. So the best of breed today may not be the best of breed tomorrow.
So maybe connecting to what you just said, there's another interesting question. What does AI cybersecurity look like if you get it right? Like, what would be the best to have at the moment?
Well, I'll give you my perspective, and then Mark, maybe you can give yours. And it's something that I mentioned in the presentation as well, that this is all about predicting and nullifying an attack before that attack has been launched. That's probably the nirvana, the holy grail of cybersecurity. And again, back to what I said, I think the AI gives us the opportunity to do that because you can look at a hugely rich data set that in the past may have taken a small army of analysts to look at. All of that can be automated. You can look for patterns, and you can look for repetitions. You can look for things like a virus signature, which we kind of in the traditional world we needed the virus signature to put it out there to block it in the future, and it's almost generating that AI signature in that example before that piece of malware or malicious code has been written or generated by an AI tool. And again, I think the example that the phrase that I used earlier on was you've actually injected the vaccination, before the virus is even known about, before the virus has even been created, if that's how viruses start. But yeah, that's the holy grail. It's prediction and elimination before a malicious act has actually started.
I kind of agree with Steve's point on that one. So in cybersecurity world, we're used to defending. It's the nature of what we do. We identify where the threats are coming from. We identify the risks associated with that, and we try to put in tools that will defend against the attack. Whether or not it's likely, whether or not it's there's evidence of it, we do what we can to provide those measures. AI allows us to be more proactive in our response. Using AI tool sets is likely to give us a much stronger response, and able to generally put a good risk assessment, a good threat assessment against the potential attackers that are coming into against their organizations. And I think, as Steve mentioned, Palo Alto has been doing this for about 20 years. been collecting the data from obviously all of its tool sets across all of its space. Our attackers haven't had that long. So whilst they are collecting data, whilst they are doing their building up their tool sets, whilst they are building their learning algorithms, AI, from a defender's perspective, from cybersecurity's perspective, we are actually stronger. We're far stronger. So that's where we want to be. That's where I see. I mean, AI cybersecurity is our opportunity to be proactively defending our environments, as opposed to just waiting for an attack to happen and then trying to respond to it. We can proactively say, well, okay, here's the defenses today. These are the tools we're going to deploy. This is how we're going to work it. And we can actually use the AI toolset to protect our own employees' behavior as well, to some degree, and say, okay, so perhaps we need to change our policies to enable our employees' behaviors or to support what they're trying to achieve. Okay.
That was a pretty good conclusion in my eyes as well to the whole session of today. Although I have one more question coming in, I will just read that out as well. So what changes have you seen in the last 2 years with organizations' approach to SASE?
Okay, again, I'll give my view on it and then open it to Mark for his thoughts. We are starting to see consolidation. One of the slides I showed earlier on with the tool sets and the gaps. We are starting to see consolidation for organizations to say, okay, we have to drive some sort of simplification through it. So the ability to take out some of that tooling, from multiple vendors, so vendor consolidation and tool set consolidation. So that's one thing that we are starting to see. The move around single vendor SASE, again, that's something that Mark talked about. Yeah, okay. I think that's perhaps more in its infancy as opposed to the consolidation within the security part of SASE. But again, that's starting. A lot of conversations and projects happening. And then probably the other one that I would say that we're starting to see emerge is SASE delivered as a managed service. Because, okay, look, security and networking are complicated. I think we'd all agree to that. Then it's not simple. And that's why looking to the support of an organization that can deliver managed services, because at the end of the day, it is from a business point of view, it is about the outcomes that you're achieving from it. So yeah, I'm certainly seeing consolidation and the emergence of from enterprise organizations to look towards managed service providers to deliver SASE as a managed service. That's my thoughts. Mark, I don't know whether you've got anything.
I mean, we've seen it in a slightly different way, in that we're seeing organizations are building their SASE platforms. Over the last probably about 3-4 years, really, we've seen a development of organizations moving from traditional SSE to now starting to use SASE as their fundamentals. And the wide variety of tools out there obviously are causing, have provided us with a massive degree of security, a huge degrees of security. But again, these are some of these were coming on prior to the AI age, and much as it pains me to say it, I look at it sometimes and I think, well, okay, in the last 2 years, have we seen what are we seeing? And whilst we're putting in, the organisations I work with are putting in greater and greater tools, and their environments are strong and secure today. The disparate nature of some of the tool sets, I do look at it now and say, maybe in a year's time, maybe in a couple of years, we need to think, okay, do we need to have a look at these? Do we need to bring them into a single vendor, single pane of glass? Because things are changing. Things are changing. Our industry evolves all the time, and in the last, say, certainly 2 years, the speed of attack is increasing. The ransomware attacks are increasing, and SASE is providing a very good boundary for a lot of that. But how we will see it moving forward, I really don't know. But say the last 2 years we've seen a lot of changes though. Okay.
All right.
Any more questions?
Thanks for answering those questions. I don't see any more questions coming in at the moment. So I think with looking at the time, we're running really well. I would like to thank you both for taking your time, for giving us your insights of this important topic. I learned a lot today as well. Thank you all for listening. And yeah, I would like to say thank you. See you next time. Looking forward to the next webinar.
Okay.
Thank
Enjoy
you.
your afternoon.
Thank you.
Bye.